Oh boy, the Nintendo Switch 2. Isn't it exciting, folks? Isn't it exciting? Looking forward to Nintendo's next system. Now, I know that some channels like to talk about this every day. I'm not going to be one of those channels until, well, we start to get some tangible stuff, but we did get a report today that I actually found to be somewhat interesting, because unlike random Famiboard users, because, you know, that's where people rush to give out information, this actually comes from a somewhat reputable individual that's actually in the business sphere. So I want to talk about this potential release window, price point of the system, because at least this is something, you know, a bit more you could sink your teeth into. If you don't want to stick around for the Switch 2 stuff, though, you can watch some other videos I got on the channel. There are plenty for you to enjoy. But first, we've got to talk about this awesome story that literally just popped up before I was about to film. Is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order possibly coming to Switch 2 at near launch. A Reset Era user posted this today. I never signed any pieces of paper or ENDAs. All I heard was that the Switch 2 was releasing in 2025 back in 2023, as I had an opportunity to port the game to it for my next project. I had just thought of a said game sequel, so that should tell you what kind of library is being ready for this thing. Although, to be fair, it was a big franchise and a big name for casuals/non-gamers to get excited about. I'm thinking Nintendo want to give a big buffer of time for third parties and AAA ports to stack up the release dates. What did we just learn about NDAs? Why in God's name would a developer just go over to Reset Era and be like, yo, I got the scoop, son? Like, is this what games have become, where people just break NDAs that you know exist, all because you have a kindergarten mentality of how you actually sign them? You know they exist, but you just decide to completely circumvent that? Like, if you're porting this for your next project, guess what, pal? If this story is true, which I don't think it is, it's going to be pretty damn easy to identify what jackass this was. Like, I don't understand. And people are listening to it, and people are getting excited for it, and they think that there's merit to it. And once again, all I'm going to say is this. Is Assassin's Creed coming to the Nintendo Switch successor? Probably. If I say that it is that really a prediction? No, because it's not based on inside information. It's not based on something you found out from Ubisoft. Is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order coming to the Nintendo Switch successor? Probably. They just released the damn thing for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One years after it came out onto the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series systems. So is this a prediction, or is this just looking at things and being like, hey, that kind of would make sense to some degree? So just stop the madness. Okay, there's no developers that are running to Reset Era and Famiboards to potentially ruin their livelihood in their business just to give you a little scoop on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I'm just saying, folks, we got to be realistic with stuff like this. But first, we have a report from, or I guess this isn't first. I guess this would be second. But second, and most importantly, we have a report coming to us from Bloomberg via Mr. Mochizuki. And this is something a little bit more tangible, I feel, because if we're talking about this and we're putting a bit of stock into this, it kind of gives us a bit of a glimpse about when the system is expected to release and the price point of the system. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Analyst Hideki Yasuda says Nintendo Switch 2 would come first half of next year for under $499. Toyo Securities analyst Hideki Yasuda says Nintendo's next gen would come first half of next year. Chris String previously said it wouldn't come this fiscal year. That means the launch would be sometime between March and June of 2025, via Mochizuki from Bloomberg. So Toyo Securities, because most people who make a video on this, they're not going to look into what Toyo Securities is. Toyo Securities is basically a business-related thing that helps out investors, tells investors what to put money into, gives market analysts market analysis and stuff like that. So to kind of, tell you, hey, this company has something large happening very soon. So, you might want to put some of your money into them to, if you're playing the stock market and stuff like that, which I do. I might actually look at repurchasing some Nintendo stocks because I ended up liquidating pretty much my whole Robinhood account because I moved it to something a little different that was a little bit more rewarding in terms of, my returns and stuff on that, even though, I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about business. But this kind of lines up with what a lot of people are kind of thinking with this. So what would that mean for the 2024 unveiling of the system if we're launching it between March and June, which would be the end of March? So really it's between April and June, I feel, because March 31st, like I don't see that sort of happening. Between April and June, though, makes a little bit more sense. When would you want to first showcase off the system? I think you could do it at the tail end of this year. Maybe it's not this month, like some people for some reason thought it was going to be, but you could do it in October. Hell, you could even really do it in November, towards the tail end of November, when most people, I shouldn't say most people, but a lot of people are done with their holiday shopping by that sort of time frame. Now, the price point, under $499, like, to me, yeah, no shit. Like, I think most people expect this system to be probably around the $400 price point, depending on what sort of features it has, depending on, what improvements we have over the baseline Nintendo Switch model. The Switch, of course, launched at $300. You had the $200 Switch Lite, and you had the $350 Switch OLED. But people seem to like that Switch OLED because it was a little bit better, especially if you played in handheld mode, in terms of screen clarity and in terms of battery life. So for me, like, all of this is a very safe prediction, but I think the fact that Mochizuki is the one kind of sharing this maybe gives it a little bit more credence, maybe gives it a little bit more of an oomph to it as something that you could potentially believe. Because yes, Mochizuki was the one talking about the Switch Pro the most, even though somehow I got pictured as the Switch Pro poster boy. But I really do think that thing was a system in development, and they pivoted at the last second because of the pandemic and made it the Switch OLED, because they were still selling systems. And if anything, they were selling more systems during the pandemic. So I feel like that sort of changed how just they were doing business. But whether you want to believe them or not on the Switch Pro, I mean, they have been rather accurate with a lot of other things and a lot of other analysis. But at the end of the day, none of this is concrete information. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to realize. This is simply a report based on, it could be a myriad of reasons. It could be based on market trends. It could be based on previous statements that President Furukawa has given. Or it could be based on a bit more of insider information as far as, manufacturing companies that are making products for the system, or even potentially making, like the screen of the system. Like, we've been hearing about the manufacturing process for this system through reports like this for quite a long time. So I'm not saying that the system is going to come out in the first half of the year. I'm not saying that the system is going to be under $499. What I am saying is that does sound very plausible. I think that does sound like something that could happen. I'm just not willing to be like, hey, this is definitely what it is. I mean, the price point, yeah, there's no way in hell Nintendo's going to come out with a $500 system. If they do, they would just be shooting themselves in the leg. And, because like when you compare apples to apples or apples to oranges with like the other systems that are out in the marketplace, you're not going to have that same graphical fidelity, at least on day one, with that sort of system. So I don't know, first half of the year, $400, that makes sense. But so does second half of the year, $400. That also makes sense. It's just how Nintendo really wants to play it. And I know from a consumer standpoint, I think most of us want this new system. We are ready to move on to bigger and better things and new hardware and new technology, which doesn't negate people that still are happy with their standard Nintendo Switch. But I feel like the market, just when you look at, you know, how Nintendo stuff tends to do as far as content creation goes, the market is more than ready for something new. The casual market, you know, they'll always be happy with whatever you give them. But the more people who like to follow video game stuff, who like to watch, you know, content and read articles and stuff like that, they have been more than ready for what is new. Let me know in the comments section down below. What do you think about this? Do you think that a developer just went to Reset Era and was like, I'm gonna potentially ruin my career for some Reset Era points? And what do you think about Yasuda's analysis of this? Do you think that this is something to put stock into? When do you think the system is going to come out? What do you think the price of this system is going to be? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. Check out the second channel that I have, RGT85 Stash. I have a video updating the book situation. Everything is looking very good, and I'll be live streaming on there at some point today as well, so make sure you come over and hang out. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.